Contessa Brewer, thank you for joining us. A long, heated, and at times personally painful hearing for Hillary Clinton Thursday. The former Secretary of State spent hours defending her record before a committee investigating the 2012 attacks in Benghazi, Libya. Republicans accused her of misinforming the public about the cause of the attack. 4 Americans died in Benghazi: Sean Smith, Glenn Doherty, Tyrone Woods, and Ambassador Chris Stevens. Thursday's hearing was a major political test for Clinton, currently the leading Democrat in the race for president. It also follows weeks of political back and forth over whether the panel's real goal was to puncture Clinton's campaign. Nancy Cordes watched it all day in Washington.
The hearing started out cordially with handshakes, but things quickly grew tense.
Well, I think if you look at the statement that I made, I clearly said that it was an attack.
Calling it an attack is like saying the sky's blue. Of course it was an attack.
Republicans accused Clinton of ignoring requests from Ambassador Chris Stevens for more security. Georgia's Lynn Westmoreland.
How many instances would it have taken you to say, hey, we need to look at the security over there?
No one ever came to me and said we should shut down our compound in Benghazi.
I'm not saying shut it down. I'm saying protect it.
It was this committee that uncovered Clinton's use of a private email system.
There are 795 emails in this pile.
Committee Chair Trey Gowdy focused on the dozens of emails Clinton got from her longtime friend, Sidney Blumenthal.
Did the president know that Mr. Blumenthal was advising you?
He wasn't advising me. And, you know,
Did he know that he was your most prolific emailer that we have found on the subjects of Libya and Benghazi?
I don't know what this line of questioning does to help us get to the bottom of the deaths of 4 Americans.
I'll be happy to help you understand that, Madam Secretary. It's relevant because our ambassador was asked to read and respond to Sidney Blumenthal's drivel. It was sent to him to read and react to. In some instances, on the very same day he was asking for security.
Democrat Elijah Cummings called it a show trial.
They set up this select committee with no rules, no deadline, and an unlimited budget. And they set them loose, Madam Secretary, because you're running for president.
California Democrat Adam Schiff noted the committee has canceled every hearing the past 9 months, except for this one.
I wonder if you would like to comment on what it's like to be the subject of an allegation that you deliberately interfered with security that cost the life of a friend.
Well, Congressman, it's a very personally painful accusation. It has been rejected and disproven by nonpartisan, dispassionate investigators, but nevertheless, having it continued to be bandied around is deeply distressing to me. You know, I would imagine I've thought more about what happened than all of you put together.
After the hearing ended, I spoke with Nancy Cordes outside the hearing.
Even after she had a coughing fit about 45 minutes before the end of the hearing, she was still, you know, willing and able to answer questions. They even asked her if she wanted to take a break, and she said no, let's keep going. But the chairman, Trey Gowdy, under persistent questioning from Democrats about how long this was going to go on, finally wrapped up the hearing at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, which was 11 hours after it started and longer than all the other hearings that this committee has held combined. And those hearings had multiple witnesses, not just one.
Okay, so let's back up. When we go into this, Trey Gowdy said, and he said it at the end of the evening as well, you can't investigate the Benghazi attacks without interviewing the person who was Secretary of State at the time, who was the boss of the ambassador and the diplomatic staff out there. Right. And the security situation came into question over and over again.
Yes.
Did we learn anything new about how the situation unfolded the night of those attacks in 2012?
As a matter of fact, I asked Chairman Gowdy that very question, Contessa, after he left the hearing. I said, what important new things did you learn in this 11-hour hearing? And he really couldn't list anything. He said, well, perhaps Congressman Jordan's questions.
Hey, Nancy?
I'm not sure. Yes.
Would you like me to play it? Because we have it.
Why not?
Okay.
And important new things you learned today.
I think some of Jimmy Jordan's questioning, well, when you say new today, I mean, we knew some of that already. We knew about the emails. In terms of her testimony, I don't know that she testified that much differently today than she has the previous time she's testified. So I'd have to go back and look at the transcript.
You know, I'm listening to that. I don't know how to interpret it. Either there was no new information or, hey, she wasn't cooperating enough to give us the new information we think is out there.
You know, I think it's probably a little bit of both. The problem is, you know, when you say what new information, I mean, this attack that happened back in 2012 is already pretty well understood. And the argument that Democrats made today is, okay, you have her emails. You asked her about all of her emails. You're saying that you, as a committee, now have her emails. You're the first committee to have them. But what is there in those emails that changes our understanding of the attacks in Benghazi, Libya? This is a Benghazi committee. It's not an email committee. Republicans, on the other hand, argue that perhaps she still has emails that she hasn't turned over, emails that might be unflattering to her. But the question is, what would those emails say? Would they say that she ordered some stand down in Benghazi of the military? Well, that's been pretty thoroughly debunked. So, you know, the questions went on and on this evening, but it was hard to see where we would get new information because the public record at this point is so voluminous. There have been 7 investigations here on Capitol Hill and an independent investigation associated with the State Department.
So the interesting thing is, in all of this testimony, there was a person who became the topic of a lot of back and forth, who's not a member of the government currently, did not serve on Hillary Clinton's staff, had no influence, at least not directly, in the decisions that were made in Benghazi, and yet Sidney Blumenthal seems to have taken up a lot of space in that room. I want to play some of the testimony that we heard and some of the questioning that we heard about Sidney Blumenthal on Capitol Hill today, Nancy.
Sidney Blumenthal by the numbers. Republicans asked more than 160 questions about Mr. Blumenthal's relationship and communications with the Clintons, but less than 20 questions about the Benghazi attacks. Republicans asked more than 50 questions about the Clinton Foundation, but only 4 questions about security in Benghazi. Republicans asked more than 270 questions about Mr. Blumenthal's alleged business activities in Libya, but no questions about the U.S. presence in Benghazi.
And there were more questions about Sidney Blumenthal, but those actually had a very strong point at the end. Let me play it.
Ambassador Stevens didn't have your email. Is that correct? Your personal email?
I'm sorry, what did you ask me?
Ambassador Stevens did not have your personal email address. We've established that.
Yes, that's right.
Did he have your cell phone number?
No, but he had the 24-hour number of the state operations in the State Department that can reach me 24/7.
Yes, ma'am. Did he have your fax number?
He had the fax number of the State Department.
Did he have your home address?
No, I don't think any ambassador has ever asked me for that.
Did he ever stop by your house?
No, he did not, Congressman.
Mr. Blumenthal had each of those and did each of those things. This man upon whom provided you so much information on Libya had access to you in ways that were very different than the access that a very senior diplomat had to you and your person.
Congressman Pompeo, I should mention, a graduate of Harvard Law, clearly showing it in his questioning there. Can you please explain for people who've been watching today, who is Sidney Blumenthal?
Sidney Blumenthal is a longtime confidant of both Hillary and Bill Clinton, and he's someone that Hillary Clinton wanted to bring into the State Department when she went there. He had worked at the White House as well. But the Obama administration viewed him as kind of a hatchet man. He had done some of the digging on behalf of the Clinton campaign into President Obama had been behind what they thought were some kind of unfair attacks. And so he is the one person that they blocked when Clinton tried to bring him into the State Department. They kind of gave her carte blanche to bring just about everyone else in that she wanted, but they said no to Sidney Blumenthal. But he's very close to Hillary Clinton, so he started continued to email her throughout her time as Secretary of State, and we've seen that now in all of the thousands of emails of hers that we have read. He had some ties in Libya, some business interests in Libya, and so he emailed her about Libya in great detail, quite a lot, with a lot of intelligence that he was gathering. And the reason that Republicans keep going back to this is that almost all of the emails that she has about Benghazi, about Libya, came from him. Not from other State Department officials, not from her ambassador, but from Sidney Blumenthal. And so Republicans are asking why she was communicating solely with him, why she was getting all of her information about Libya from him instead of from State Department officials or intelligence officials. And her response to that is, because I didn't do most of my work via email. I didn't even have a computer at my desk. I did much more of my work in meetings, in the Situation Room, in briefings. I got classified material that I looked at and gave back, but I just didn't do a lot of emailing with my staff or with my ambassadors overseas.
I'm also interested in your take, because you've been covering so much of the political race here. What do you think will be the political impact for Hillary Clinton moving forward?
I think that she escaped politically more or less unscathed. I mean, she clearly went in with a strategy. She was speaking in very calm tones, and she talked about rising above partisanship. And, you know, she often avoided getting sort of pulled into a back and forth where things would escalate. And if she ever did find her voice rising, then she would self-correct and go back to that sort of baseline. And she clearly wanted to avoid any comments that could be plucked out of that hearing and placed right into a negative campaign ad that could be run over and over again to show that she was a callous Secretary of State who didn't care about her people. So that was clearly very much on her mind. It didn't appear to me, or really any of the reporters in that room, that she said anything that would be a huge indictment of her and that would dog her on the campaign trail. But this investigation is far from over. And this is the committee, after all, that uncovered the fact that she was using a private email server to begin with. So it's quite possible that there's something else embarrassing or problematic for her that could pop up along the way.
All right, one last question, and this one is just completely out of personal curiosity. Was it really hot in that room? Because Trey Gowdy looked like he was sweating bullets.
Well, I'll tell you, Trey Gowdy is recovering from a cold, and he actually lost his voice and has been resting it the past couple of days, just trying to get back in shape to be able to speak in this hearing. You know, he was chosen in part because he's this thundering prosecutor, and you can imagine what terrible timing it would have been for him if he couldn't speak. So he could speak, but he definitely looked like someone who probably was not quite feeling up to an 11-hour hearing. I think it's pretty impressive how well everyone else held up, including Secretary Clinton. If you think about it, all those members of Congress had their 10 minutes at a time to question her, and then they could kind of zone out if they wanted. But she couldn't. I mean, she had to really sit there and focus that entire time. And I was getting tired just watching it. So, just as a feat of stamina, it was pretty impressive.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for spending some more of your time with us, sort of debriefing the day's hearings. Nancy, always good to talk to you. Thank you.
You're welcome, Contessa. Have a great night.